because I thought about this song, and I'm gonna pull up the lyrics so I don't mess them up. Because you know how people do sometimes. We start talking about songs and stuff, and we make whole new lyrics for it. But the song is um Kenny Rogers. I don't know how many of y'all listen to Kenny Rogers or have listened to, and it's called The Gambler. But I'm sure you know part of this song. It says he talks about the secret to surviving. And it talks about one of the famous lines talks about knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them. It says you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to run when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done. Then it goes on again and say you got to know when to, right? Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away. And tonight, we're not talking about gambling. We're not talking about the game of life. We're not even necessarily talking about the cards you were dealt. But what we are going to talk about, and what I do want us to focus on, is knowing when to stay, right? Know when to hold, right? And know when to fold, know when it's time to walk away. How do we know? Like, how do you know, okay, now is the time for me to walk away? How do you know now is the time for me to reach to something different? How do you know now is the time for me to strive for what's next? My time, how do you know, like, my time here where I am right now has expired or is coming to an end, right? Because sometimes it's not instantaneous. Sometimes we drop it and we're like, okay, yeah, I gotta go, right? Moving on to the next, whether it be a job, whether it be a relationship, whether it be ministry and ministry opportunities. In some moments, it's like, okay, no, this is not it. I gotta go, right? But in other moments, it's you have to make a plan or an exit plan, or you have to figure out, okay, in 6 months, this is what this is going to look like. So that's what we want to talk about tonight. Know when to go, know when to hold them. I'm staying, I'm riding it out. This is what I need. But also knowing, okay, no, I'm not, I can't ride this up. I can ride this out for maybe 5 more months, maybe 2 more weeks, and then I have to go. So for some of us, we're leaving out of some things, right? And then for other of us, we're going toward some things. And that's very different. To leave something is not the same thing as going towards some things, because sometimes we need to leave and let go of to open up opportunity and to put ourselves in better headspaces. But then there are times when you got to go towards something to open up new opportunities and to see new things and to be able to get a different type of clientele and to be open for the next relationship, whether it be friends or romantic or, you know, or networking for your business. It's different. So I really, really, really want to talk about that because, one, I've had these conversations, right, with friends, with family members of, you know, I'm tired of being in the classroom, or I'm not sure if I still want to do this type of job, or I think I'm being called to do something different or something that looks, and then we keep having this conversation. It's like, well, how do you know when to go? How do you know this no longer serves me, right? Because we throw that out a lot. How do you know this is not the best place for me? But how do you also know it may not be a bad or a toxic thing, but how do you also know I've capped out here? So now I'm going towards something, right? I'm going towards something else. I've kind of reached and checked off the goals in this space. So now it's time for something different. So let's talk about it. I definitely want to hear from you. I definitely want to, I want this, like always, to be a conversation amongst the group. So the first question is, when do you know it's time to move on or to move forward? Like, how do you know for yourself? Like, in your personal space, you're like, you know what? I think it's time for something new. I think it's time for something different. I don't think this is where I'm supposed to be. Or I think I'm supposed to be over there. I think I'm supposed to be in this city or in this state or this part of the world. Or I've really been interested, or I feel like I'm pulled to this. Like, how do you know personally? I was talking to someone earlier, and she was saying she knew, or the advice that she was given was, she was talking about retirement, right? And she was like, she knew, because someone told her, you'll just know, right? Sometimes it's this gut feeling. She was like, and what happened was she didn't have the same basically she just didn't have the same zeal, she didn't have the same excitement, she just did not have the desire to be in that space anymore. Even after doing a job, you know, for decades, she just didn't necessarily have that desire anymore to continue to serve in that space. So for her, it was an inner knowing of, you know what, I used to be at work on time every day. I come in an hour late, 15 minutes late. I'm dragging in. I'm trying to figure out ways to leave early, right? So you start finding reasons not to go. For some of us, right, we start finding reasons not to show up, not to go. We will be the first person in the office or the first person to show up. Now we might be the last person to show up and the first person to leave. I know for me from previous, at least from, I'll speak from an employment standpoint. Previously, when I knew it was time to go was when I just didn't feel like it. Right? It was like, oh, I got to go back. And it was something that I loved, right? But it was like, man, I'm dragging. I was very similar to that. Like, I'm dragging. I'm not as creative in this space anymore. I don't feel the desire to show up in the same way and at the full capacity that I know I really should be. So maybe I need to take a break, take a step back. Maybe I can come back, or maybe I can reimagine what this is and what this looks like moving forward. Right. On a relationship standpoint, again, a lot of times people talk about, this doesn't serve me anymore. But I think one thing we really have to do is analyze, like, is this a moment of growth for me? Because sometimes we're challenged so that we can grow and so that we can become better. Right. So we got to even learn the difference between, okay, this is not a good space, a healthy space for me to be in, versus I need to have this opposition. I need to have these challenges so that I can grow, so that I can learn more, so that I can be able to so I can grow in emotional intelligence, right? Be able to deal with different personality types. So even knowing that distinction and analyzing, okay, this situation has been tough. What have I learned from it? Or have I learned from it? Has it helped me to grow as a leader? Has it helped me find my voice? Has it helped me learn how to delegate? Has it helped me grow and really deal with my emotions and how I respond to situations and how I talk to people in certain moments? Or is this something that's just really beating me down and and there is no upside to it, right? If there's no upside to it, right? And we're speaking from a point of honesty. If there's no upside, even in difficulty, right? Okay, this is difficult and I'm being stretched beyond my comfort zone, right? That's not necessarily a reason to leave in that moment. This is difficult and I'm learning how to find my voice, and I'm learning how to say no, and I'm learning how to delegate things to other people, and I'm learning how to, if I'm upset with my mate, how to maybe take a pause and then respond to them and not just hop on them, right? Am I learning something? Or is it just difficult and it's pulling me down and it's causing things to really hurt me, right? Because we talk about toxicity, but sometimes people aren't toxic. We just don't like what they had to say because it's not what we wanted to hear, right? It's a difference between my significant other, my friend, my boss, my employer, whatever, hurt my feelings, but what was needed to be said, then this person hurt my feelings because they're trying to drag me down. There are two different things that we have to be honest about what that is, what's being said, and is this something that is gonna grow me? So I think that honesty is what really makes the difference between us just leaving and giving up and throwing in the towel prematurely, and us really saying, you know what, this is my moment to move into something else or to move away from where I have been serving or what I've been a part of or who I have been connected to. So y'all talk to me. So Carl said, when things that used to bother you don't bother you anymore, you're over it and you're tired of being tired. I think that's good. And I think that comment right there works across the board as well. So for some of us, everything bothers us, right? When we're annoyed and we know, like, I'm just over it, the time is up. For others of us, we don't care. Like he said, it doesn't bother you anymore. You kind of numb with it because you've exhausted all your options. You've tried this, you tried to do things a new way, you rearranged the office, you you've done things to say, you know what, I put my all into it. But now sometimes we hit the point where it's like, you know what, I don't care. You want to do that, okay, go ahead. Right? Oh, this is going on. All right. And you're just over it. And like you said, you're tired of being tired because maybe you've used your voice. Maybe you voiced your concerns. Maybe you've had, and I was talking, Tony's up here. We had a conversation. We were talking more about like romantic relationships and about dating. And one of the things we talked about, like, you keep having the same conversation with the person. Either they're going to change their behaviors or they're not. Right. And I think many people, and one of the things she said to me is, you don't want to leave when you're exhausted. Right? You don't want to leave when you're upset and you're angry. Have the conversation. Maybe have a conversation once. You know, it don't work out, give people grace, right? You have the conversation another time, the person still doesn't change their behavior, or you know, it doesn't seem like it's really landing and you're not making any progress. All right, that's fine. Now, guess what? I'm walking away because, you know, I have told you how I felt. I told you where I was. And if you're not willing, right? And of course, this works both ways, but if you're not willing to adjust your behavior, or if you're not willing to hear me out, then, you know, I can now walk away because I'm tired of being tired. I've done what I wanted, what I've thought should be done. I've had a conversation. I've been honest with you. I told you where I was. I told you how I felt. You know, maybe you didn't respect it, or maybe you didn't make any changes to kind of, you know, so that we can be in a better space. So, hey, we're done. What we don't want, because sometimes this is what we do, we overstay our welcome with people, and we think, oh, it's going to change, it's going to change. And now 10 years down the road, you still have the problem from day one, when you should have moved forward. You should have walked away. You should have let go, right? That happens on jobs, right? You're angry, you're mad going to work every day, and of course, you know, all of us don't have necessarily the ability always to just switch a job, but it's not just about switching a job. It's about mental health. It's about your physical health. It's about, you know, like the connections that you make there, but it's about, are you even putting in the effort to say, to analyze, okay, this isn't serving me, right? With people, we will run, we will have friends, and they will take from us. And as soon as we need the smallest thing, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you. Right? It's like you asked them for a kidney, right? And you keep, oh, that's my friend, that's my friend. But is it time to move on and move forward? And we're going to talk about moving forward gracefully, because everything, also, we're going to talk about it in a little bit. Everything doesn't have to end in a negative way, or with you not liking somebody, or sometimes you know what, you throw in a towel, you do it gracefully. I still care about you. I don't have to leave on bad terms. However, I do have to leave. And everything doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be something negative connected to you leaving. Sometimes you know, whatever, and we talked about this before, right? Whatever this was supposed to serve for me, it has served. That season is over, that time is over. Now it's time for me to move forward. And we don't have to dislike each other or have an argument. Romantic relationships, business relationships, networking relationships, ministry opportunities doesn't have to end from a negative space. It can just be like, hey, we did it. We served our purpose. Now it's time to move forward, right? So, if anybody else wants to kind of comment on that, hey Ray, hey, I think that's Carlos. Hey Carlos. Hey Sierra, hey everybody, thanks for coming in. I see you on IG. Hey Tony, I see you on YouTube. Y'all know me and Facebook stay in the struggle, so I'm gonna try to see who's on Facebook too. We stay in the struggle. I don't know what it is about Facebook. We're gonna get it together. But for anybody else, when do you know it's time to move on? So we had, you know, when you're tired, you're just tired, you don't care anymore. For some people, you know, you may start showing up late, you may not be showing up as your full self. For some of us, we get really frustrated, like the smallest things kind of tick you off. So it can vary based on who you are. It can vary based on, you know, where you serve, what your vocation is, who you're connected to, what type of relationships there are, right? But I think the first thing really is acknowledging, okay, I think I may be in a space where it's time for me to move on, for me to go forward, for me to release this and move into what's next. But I really want to be honest about where I am before I start making decisions. So I want to kind of clear that and kind of make that space before we really jump into it. So even, and on top of that being said, hey Reby, on top of that being said, so the first thing I really want to talk about, and again, I always want to hear from y'all, is that go has multiple meanings. So we open up with a song, right, by Kenny Rogers. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away. Go has multiple meanings. So depending on where you are, again, relationally, job wise, vocation wise, geographically, that could have a different meaning for you. So for some of us, go means that I am leaving something. It is time to go. You know, like when you're somewhere with your friends, or you're somewhere with your mate, or you're somewhere and y'all give each other that look like, it's time to go, right? Or you look at your child like, you know, it is go for many. It's I am leaving one place, right? Go for somebody else in this space may be I am moving towards something. So it's two different meanings. So for some of us, you may be exiting out of something, and I'm trying to figure out what's next. But I know that I have to leave this space, but I'm not quite sure about where I'm going or if I'm going to another space or what that looks like and that timing looks like. For other people, it is I kind of know what's next, or I know that this is what I'm striving for. I'm interested in this, right? So I'm moving towards something. I'm kind of set on this, and I got to get there. But I want to get my timing on point, and I want to make sure that when I do go, I'm not going prematurely. I'm not going and I'm not quite ready, right? Because we'll never be fully ready, but we do want to have something that we're taking with us. We do want to have some kind of plan and some kind of foundation, because we'll never know the full plan, right? But it is that difference between, all right, I got to leave this, right? And for other people, again, leaving is relationship. It could be job. It could be friendships. It could be habits. It could be thought patterns. It could be diet, right? I have to stop doing this. This is what I do know, right? I have to go away from this habit. I have to get away from this person. I have to stop going to this place. For others, it is I need to get to this. So I'm going towards something, right? Does that make sense? I'm going to something, right? Which is I need to go into a different network of people. I am going to a different location. I am stepping into a different vocation. I am stepping into a different position at my job. I'm stepping into something that I'm not quite sure about. I might not even be well versed in it, but I know that that is what's next. Now I'm just trying to figure out how to get there, when to get there, and make the best moves possible so that when I get to that space, I have all at least that I need to get started, right? So that's kind of what that first part is. So we want to kind of separate those two things. One, knowing the honesty behind, okay, yeah, it is time to go. And then the second part, okay, I'm leaving and I'm going. For some of us, it's both, right? Okay, I know I need to leave here and I need to go there, right? But it can be so. I was driving on the road, and y'all know I try to be as transparent as possible. I was driving across the bridge the other day, and I almost started crying because of change. Like, change is scary. Like, even exciting change, even change that you know it's going to be something new, something exciting. You're connecting with new people, you get new opportunities. It doesn't take away the anxiety, right? So change is scary. I'm like, oh my God, life is changing. Right? It was real dramatic, right? And I had a conversation with one of my coworkers once I got to where I was like, life is really changing. Like, oh my goodness. So it has this excitement with it, but it also has this anxiety. And because many of us have this fear of the unknown, like, I know things are changing. I know things are moving forward. I know that this is going to be a positive impact, even when it doesn't feel the best in the moment. But oh my gosh, it's changing. And I think on a personal note for me, I am a planner. So when I don't have all the details, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's changing. Right? So it's scary. It's exciting, but it's also scary. And I don't want us to neglect and look at like, oh, I'm moving to something. It's exciting. Yes, it's exciting. But there's also a certain level of anxiety and fear that can come with that. But what we don't want is for that to stop us from moving forward. Right. So first thing we kind of want to look at is knowing that it has multiple meanings. So for some of us, we're leaving one place because we need to disconnect to that to get into a healthy space, or we need to disconnect to that so that we can find ourselves. Or is refind the word, y'all? So we can find ourselves again. Let's say that we need to break away from something to be healthy emotionally, physically, no matter what that is. I know y'all get the gist. And then for others of us, it is I need to get to this space because where I am, I've capped out, or I'm stagnant, or I'm not really able to do what I need to do, what I know that I should be doing. So I need to get over here. Right. And some of us don't even know what over here is, but we know that there's an over here that exists and we're reaching towards it. So, and some of us find ourselves in both spaces where I know I need to disconnect from this and I need to go there so that I can get to everything and max out what I do have and what I'm going forward and walking into. And that can be scary and in different times, right? So gather courage. Y'all know what's the movie with Dorothy, right? The Wizard of Oz, right? And it's the lion, the cowardly lion, and the lion needed courage, right? So for many of us, courage is what we need to be able to leave. Again, change is different. Change is scary. Change can bring anxiety. But the courage, we got to build up some level of courage, right? And just like in the movie, like it's always been in you, right? That's my corny plug. Like it's inside of you. We just have to take the time to really find it and to really get over, for many of us, emotions, right? If I could, I'll raise my hand for the group, right? Sometimes we get emotionally involved in things that we can't think clearly, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, what if this happened? Okay, but what if I go and then, it don't work out? What if I go and they just selling me a dream and it's not, the job isn't as good as they say it is, or it doesn't last as long as I thought it'd be, or what if I connect with this person and then they start acting crazy? Well, like we get caught up, right? Overthinkers. I don't know if we got any overthinkers on, right? We get caught up in what if this happens? What if that happens? What if it doesn't go like I thought? What if it does? But what if it doesn't? What if everything works out, right? Of course, there'll be obstacles, there'll be things to come up, but what if everything does work out? Have you considered that? What if it ends up working out better than what you could have ever imagined? What if, right? And we got to have the courage to be like, you know what? What I cannot do is stay here. Because if I stay where I am, nothing happens. If I stay here, nothing changes. So why not take the risk to move forward and go into what you may not be sure about, but at least you're taking a step out of where you are, because you already know you ain't supposed to be there and you're not supposed to stay there, right? We already talked about that, right? So you already know you're not supposed to stay there. So why not take the risk? And even if you fall, and this is one thing, my pastor is my mentor. One thing he taught us about was failing forward, right? So even if you fail, you've gotten exposure to something different. You've connected with something different, right? And your failures cause you to push forward and learn new things. And maybe the plan doesn't go exactly as planned, but you still made some progress because you stepped out of that stagnant place. You stepped out of that place of complacency. You stepped out of that place where you were like the big fish in a little pond and everything was going well. And you knew that you were doing good, but you weren't doing great. Like you was like, oh, I got this. I'm doing good. People patting you on the back. But you already knew there was more. You knew that. Like, oh, you operating at like 5%. And people are like, oh yeah, you killing it. You doing this, whatever. And you could be doing more. There are things that you've gotten to the place where what you do is easy. It's like you don't even gotta be all the way awake and you can get it done, right? Because you do this, right? But now is the time where you have to get some courage and say, I got to step into something that's going to be challenging to me, because if we don't, things that don't grow, die. Things that don't grow, die. Things that don't grow, die. Things that are stagnant, those things end up dying off. Because if you're not growing, y'all know, like, example, flowers. I love flowers. I buy flowers for my house every week, right? But because those flowers have been plucked and picked and they're no longer growing because they're no longer attached to their roots, they're no longer planted, they're going to die. Like, that's just how it works. So I can refresh the water and do the little bleach thing and put the ice cubes and do the flower food. But eventually they look good. They smell good. I guess they do whatever for the house. But eventually they're not going to be able to maintain that. And us, I'm not saying you're gonna die. Let me be clear. But what I am saying is you're not gonna grow if you just look good on the outside and people are patting you on the back for doing the bare minimum. So we have to learn together the courage to say, you know what, I'm not operating at optimal level. So I have to disconnect from this, and I have to disconnect from the yes people, and I have to disconnect from my mindset of, well, I'm gonna just cruise and ride this thing out, and go into, I know that there's more. I know that I have been called and pushed and I'm being positioned for more. So it may suck sometimes. It may be uncomfortable sometimes. I may not like it sometimes. I may get frustrated sometimes, but I know that I have to go, right? I know that I gotta go. I know that I have to go into something different. I know that I have to disconnect from this, right? I know that. So there has to be some kind of challenge, right? what we don't want to do is just live life just like we want to be don't get me wrong, you want to be comfortable, you want to celebrate your achievements, and you want to know that you're doing well where you are. But what you don't want to confuse you being doing well and maintaining well with you just becoming complacent and kind of riding it out and not really operating how and where and at the level that you should be. Does that make sense? Y'all talk to me. Does that make sense? Hey, Bobby. Hey, Tyler. Tonight, Tyler, we are talking about knowing when to go. So knowing when to go into the next space, or knowing when to leave, and knowing when to really max out who you are and what you should be doing. Hey, Josh. So I hope y'all talk to me. I hope this makes sense. But we really want to gather that courage to be honest. Like, we started off with honesty, right? And say, you know what? Yeah, I could be doing more, right? Or you know what? I'm gonna make the phone call and call this person. I'm gonna put the application in. I am going to send the text. I'm gonna send the email. I am gonna start networking better, right? Because for many people, like, well, I don't really have the opportunity to do this, and my job doesn't really allow me to. And this, I mean, if I could just be honest, this season is not about what people allow you to do. This season is about what you're determined to make happen. Like, nobody, you can't not allow anybody to keep you in a box right now. You cannot allow anybody to put words on you that are not true to who you are. You cannot afford to let anybody limit you, right? I was on a live last night. I just one of my biggest things is like taking limits off, taking things out of the box, right? Well, you already do this. You already got too much, so you probably don't do that right now. No, if you believe this is what you're being called to do, you'll be in position to do, this is your passion, go for it. So if you want to be a chef and you want to be a stylist and you want to be a minister, do all of it. And, do it in the time that you should do it. But don't allow anybody in this season, in this space, to limit what you're doing and tell you that you can't do something. Because if you've been graced to do it, if you have been blessed to do it, if you've gotten the favor and the okay and the stamp of approval from God to do it, go for it. And don't allow the words of somebody who may not understand what you have going on limit you or block you or keep you caged in to where you can't go to where you're supposed to go, or where you can't let go of something. Like, you should just be happy with what you got. That could be true in some spaces, but if you feel it in your heart and in your soul that there is more, you have to follow that, right? That gut feeling, right? It's not, we got all G's tonight. Gut feeling is not one of them, but sometimes that gut feeling you telling you that there's more, that gut feeling you telling you not to settle, go with that, because other people may not understand it, and we cannot allow them to stop us from reaching our full potential. Y'all tell me what you're thinking. What's on your mind? So, let me put that back up. So my question is, when we talk about courage, what's one thing? So if you could just think about previous decisions you've made, or times in your life when you maybe took the leap. What's one thing you wish you had known before taking the leap? So you built up your courage, you're building up your courage, you're going to take the leap. What is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody, or one thing that you wish you would have known before you hopped into the next thing, or before you, took the risk, or before you let go? What is something, right? Because there are even different times and different levels of letting go and different times of pushing forward to the next. So what's something like, dang, I wish I would have known this, right? Or I wish I would have thought about this, or I wish I would have considered this. Or if I go back and tell my younger self, before you hop out there, remember this, right? Or if you could share that with someone younger, or maybe someone who may not have as much experience, or maybe someone who is considering making the move, because to some of us, you may be listening to this to give this information to somebody else. So what would you tell that person? Like, I wish I would have known this before I really hopped out there. I wish I would have considered this. I know for me, one of the things that I have, like, before I go, one of the things that I probably wish I would have known is that there's a time, and I talked about this earlier, like, I am a planner. So I wish I would have considered for some past decisions that I made. I wish I would have considered, and it's going to sound real crazy, y'all, but I wish I would have considered that things do not go as planned. And you have to be flexible, right? I was on a live last night. We were talking to women, encouraging women, empowering women, and we're talking about going with the flow. Like there's some, I'm a planner, right? So going with the flow ain't really my thing. I'm gonna be honest. There's some moments like on vacation, I can go with the flow. At work, I ain't really trying to go with the flow. I need a plan. What we doing it, how we doing it, what you need, right? But I had to learn, right, in certain spaces, like, hey, won't have a plan. You gotta go with the flow. Like, so I wish something that I would tell my younger self is don't get frustrated because it didn't go as planned, because often when things don't go as planned, they end up better than what you thought they would be. And sometimes when things don't go as planned, it takes some of the weight off you, right? Because it's like, okay, well, we in this together, right? If you got if you work with a team, or you work with a group of people, or you work with others, it's like everybody, you learn people's strengths and weaknesses in those moments where there's no plan, or where the plan changes, or where something's not there, so you have to figure it out, and you start learning other people's strengths and weaknesses. So I'm grateful for those moments of the plan not going well, and me now, right, more mature, older me is like, you know what? It didn't go as planned, but it went well, right? Or that moment when it's like, oh, we don't have this. It's like, all right, now it's almost like an automatic, like, all right, so let's just figure out what we need to do, right? We got to figure it out. We got to work it out. We just got to, plan change. All right, now I'm not stressed, right? Now I'm not losing sleep or frustrated or mad, but now it's in the space of, hey, it happens, let's figure it out. Let's go with the flow. I know my teammate is able to do this and that. So what we're going to do is boom, 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 right? And we're going to make it happen. So that's definitely one of the things for me. So the first thing when we talk about is knowing when to go is, one, knowing that go has multiple meanings, and depending on who you are, where you are, what your goal is. Go may mean you disconnecting from certain things or certain people in certain spaces. And for others, it may be you working towards something, you having a goal that you're going towards, or you knowing that there's more. Even if you don't know exactly what that more looks like. So that there's some different goals going on in the group, in the room, in our community. And for some of us, it's both. So you know that you need to disconnect, and you know that there's something else, and you're trying to navigate that space. Two, you have to gather courage. So we don't want to make emotional decisions. We don't want to get upset and start, fussing people out and ready to fight. And, we got to reanalyze the situation and see how best to handle it, as well as knowing that things may not always go our way, but we have to be willing to take the risk, because what we cannot afford to do is stay stagnant and not grow at all. Right? Then the next thing is knowing that you got to go, right? Knowing that you've built up your courage, you have to go, you have to leave, you have to move forward. You got to have a game plan. So game plan is, what type of action am I going to take, and what does that look like? So I'm going to take the leap. After I take the leap, I'm going to have this, because we don't want to take the leap and we don't have nothing, right? There's some moments where you have to just go, right? You have to make the decision quickly, but we want to make it even if, again, we don't have all the details. We do want to at least we want to make an educated guess. So we want to have some information to kind of build from. So our game plan, you want to have some type of strategy. So if I know that I want to, let's say I know that I want to open a food truck. I want to start a food truck. I have to have a plan, right? Even if I don't have all the capital, even if I don't know how to cook, even if I don't have employees, I have to do some research, right? How much does a food truck cost? How much, and how do you store the food? How do you supply it? What areas should I go to? What kind of demographic am I trying to reach? Right? You want to go in like, I don't know everything, but I have put in some work and I've done some research. So what does that look like for me, and who I'm serving and what I'm moving to? Okay. Game plan, even with dating or relationships. What do I want? What type of person am I looking for? What am I willing to accept? What am I willing to kind of budge on? What am I not like? What are my non-negotiables? what kind of what kind of person do I want to have more children, or do I want to have children? Do I want, like, you're going through all that. Am I willing to move? Am I willing to, you want to have some type of plan as to, okay, what are my expectations, or what are some things that I have already researched, so that even how to approach the situation, or you have some type of foundation. So even in the unknown, you are educated in a sense of, I'm not just going in blind. I do have some, basic information. I have tried to start a blueprint. I have tried to do some research. I have reached out to some people, because the part about having a game plan is you have at least an outline, of where, because you can't really get somewhere that you don't know where you're going. Right. So I know that there's more. I don't know exactly what it is, but here's some action items that I want to do. I need to start working on my attitude. Right. If I'm gonna be dealing with people, I need to work on my responses, right? I don't even know what type of people, or what do people look like, or where do people are located, but I know that they people, and people can be finicky, right? People can be frustrated. People can be a friend one day and then a foe the next day, right? But what can I do, right? I can work on the things that I can work on. So let me start working on my attitude. Let me start working on how I respond to people. Let me start building up my emotional intelligence and know how to work with different types of personalities. Let me start working on saying positive things for people, right? If my self-esteem, I need to work on that, or how I view myself. What's my plan? My plan is to start speaking affirmations to myself every morning and every night. My plan is to start surrounding myself with people that I know care about me and love me, and that are going to pour into whatever that looks like to you. You have to have some kind of plan, because it's hard to get there and you just like, oh, it's just going to work out. You're going to be disappointed if you don't have something to back you up, right? Like, I know that I want to start a business. Let me start putting things together. Let me start talking to other business owners. Let me start talking to people who have already succeeded where I am. Again, I don't know everything and I haven't figured it all out, but I have some type of basis to help me get there. That makes sense, y'all. So you want to have a game plan. And it's this phrase, right? We start off with a song. There's this phrase that says proper planning prevents poor performance, right? Some other people add another P in there, but what I'm going to say is proper planning prevents poor performance. So what you want to do is exhaust everything that you could possibly do to get to where you're going. Leave space open for things to change. Leave space open to be teachable and for people to help you along the way. But don't go in with nothing. Put yourself in the best position possible. Work with what you got, right? And in the most like layman's terms ever, work with what you got. Work what you got like you have never worked it before, and know that you can move forward with that. So my question to you is, what is your strategy for making big decisions? So for some of us, if you're deciding on a relationship or moving forward with a relationship, if you're starting to change careers, if you're thinking about moving, if you're thinking about starting something new or building a business, becoming an entrepreneur, any kind of new endeavor, whether it be personally, professionally, ministry-wise, what kind of like what do you do to prepare yourself for that? Or how do you make the decision? For some of us, we seek counsel, right? So I talk to my mentors. I talk to my close family members. I may talk to friends and just ask them, like, what do you think about this? Or I'm thinking about doing this, so because often they have a different perspective than you have. So they can start adding different perspectives into your thoughts. So you may be caught up in the negative space or the scary space. And like, well, what about this? Like they see the opportunity in it. And for sometimes they can make you consider, because sometimes we get into spaces where we're ready to make a big decision and we're only looking at the pros, and you need the person that's going to come in and say, hold up, did you think about this? Did you ask them about this? Right? They offering you that salary, counter them with this salary, like counter them with this and with these benefits, because they kind of been there, done that, or they've been in a similar space. So do you have a strategy, or how do you make big decisions? Right? Many people, they pray about, okay, let me pray about it for the next couple days. Some people fast, like, I'm gonna turn my plate down for a week and I'm gonna seek God for the answer. And it could also be a compilation of all these things, where I pray about it, I fast about it, I seek counsel, and I use all of that to make my decision. For some of us, very logical, like, let me run the numbers. Does this make sense? If I open up a new business, will the numbers make sense, right? If I charge this amount, right? I was sitting with one of my friends today and she was trying to put together packages for her business. Okay, if I charge this amount, does it make sense for me? Like, will I benefit from that? Will I be able to pay the people that work for me? So it's very logical, it's very numbers driven, right? In the in many spaces of, okay, but this makes sense, right? And is this going to allow me to grow? Do I have like, how do you decide, okay, this is what I'm going to do? For others of us, it is sitting down and considering, okay, I've been in this space for X amount of years. I've been able to accomplish this. I capped out. Moving forward, this is what I require of a mate. This is what I require of a job. This is what I require of, whatever that next thing is. So I'm going to write down a list of, this is what I require. And I'm either going to find this or I'm going to make this space. Right. So I don't know what your strategy may be, but how do you? And I know, personally, I seek counsel from my mentors, from my close friends. I may throw out a thought. I'm like, you know what I was thinking about? And I throw that out to people, kind of hear what they have and what they may be thinking and what their take is on it. And I hear them and I consider them. And let me tell you what I really love. I love when people challenge my thinking, like challenge me, make me think beyond, because again, often we get caught up in this one-sided thing and we get caught up in only what we think, and we miss, like, we're blind, we have tunnel vision, right? So we miss out on other perspectives, or we miss out on something that other people may be doing. Hey Jasmine, hey Miss Rosa. If you're on Facebook, hey, I can, for whatever reason, again, I can only see limited people on Facebook. Hey Aunt Kim. But we really you want to have, and if you don't have a strategy, I would definitely charge you to think about, okay, when I make big decisions, this is what I do. This is how I do that. And then the next thing is goodbye with grace. And we kind of like mentioned this a little bit earlier, but everything doesn't have to end like super dramatic and, you throwing people clothes out the window. What is that, baby boy? Like, you throwing people clothes on the lawn, or like waiting next to exhale when she threw his clothes in the car and then she lit the car on fire. Like, everything don't have to end in this big dramatic, or you like throw all your stuff off your desk and they have to throw you out the office. Like, everything doesn't have to end in this big grand dramatic thing. You can say goodbye with grace. You can leave places, people, things, habits with grace. You can leave on good terms. It doesn't have to be negative. With friendships, right? It can be, you know what, we're not as close as we used to be. We can still be cordial. It can be the same thing with relationships, right? Like, everything don't have to be he cheated, she cheated, they drug my name through the mud, they were lying. Sometimes it's just like, you know what, we tried this, it didn't work out. We're still cool. I see you. Hey, and that's just what it is. And that's okay. Like, everything doesn't have to be this super, or even in the relationship space, as a friend, as a mate, it doesn't have to be a dramatic, like, I can't believe you did this to me. Sometimes it's just like, you know what? It just didn't work out. This ain't it. We can move on good terms. And that sounds super simple, but sometimes, we feel like it has to be this, like, it has to be something really wrong for me to go. And it doesn't have to be something real wrong or real deep. Sometimes it's just like, this is not a good fit, right? You can get on a job and it look good on paper. And then you get there and you're like, this ain't it. Right? Like, and sometimes it's because maybe you're overqualified. Sometimes it is a perfect job, perfect place, perfect salary. And you get in and it's just like, this ain't it. Right? Sometimes with people, like, nope. Or opportunities, right? Like, sounds so good. And it's like, like, thank you, but I regret to inform you I won't be able to accept this, right? I can be here for this amount of time, then I have to move on. And it could be on good terms, friends, relationships, disconnecting from things and moving on to other things. It can be on good terms. Often social media, yes, Tony said, you can exit with grace. Absolutely. You can leave with grace. You can say goodbye, and it could be on good terms, and nobody has to be fighting and pulling nobody weave out and getting the Vaseline out. You ain't got to do that. It could be, you know what, this ain't work. We tried it. Hey, It's all good. Still love you, still care about you, but I'm moving forward. Like, I separated from this company on good terms. My record was still straight. My employee file was all good, 5 stars, check, 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 good assessments, good company reviews, but it just was no longer a fit for me. And that can be okay, because some of us, we wait for this bad thing to happen, and that's your path to go, right? That's your way out. But you, going back to the courage, right? You have to have the courage to say, even if it is going well, if it's going well, but it's not the right fit, I have to exit with grace, right? Even if it's going well, but it's not where I'm supposed to be, you have to exit with grace. Even if it's going well, it's okay to exit with grace, because if it's going well, but it's not the right place and it's not the right person, in the end, it's going to be more painful and it's going to bring more damage than it is going to bring you well, because it's not where you're supposed to be. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. I'm about to send some money to Kenny Rogers or something, right? But it is knowing, you know what, it's a good hand. This look good, but I'm gonna have to gracefully deny. I'm gonna have to gracefully regret. I'm gonna have to gracefully, like rescind my offer, or rescind my stance that I made to be there. So, and that's okay. I think the biggest thing is knowing it's okay to do that. It doesn't mean that you were wrong or they were wrong or somebody was right or somebody need it. It just this just ain't it. Sometimes this is not right, not said in proper English, but sometimes it just ain't it. And you have to get to your it. You gotta let go, or you gotta move forward and get to whatever your it is. Because this it is good, but it ain't the right one. So bye. Right. And then lastly, well, no, I do have one more question for y'all before we leave the exit with grace. Just a quick question. What's your advice? Do you guys have any advice for people who are maybe struggling with exiting? They're trying to end something. It's not bad, but it's not good, but it's not where it's supposed to be, right? Do you have any advice for someone who just wants to end something on good terms? And if I could kind of go first while you're thinking about that, and while you're thinking on that, I think one of the biggest pieces of advice for ending something on good terms, and again, this can be something you have to build courage to do, is having an honest conversation with people. Because sometimes we are so scared to just say something. And often, sometimes the other person or the other people are thinking the same thing you're thinking. So it's like it takes that person to break the ice, like, you know what, I don't know if this is working. And people are like, oh my gosh, like you break the ice. Tony's up here, she talked about being an icebreaker earlier. But sometimes you break the ice to say, oh man, you were thinking the same thing I was thinking. I was thinking the same thing. And it may be even a moment of, okay, we tried to do something this way. We need to let that process go. We need to let that tradition go. We need to let that strategy go and move on to something different, because we tried this over and over again. It's not working. Right. So now you let the rest of the team know, like, you feel the same way. All right, we can try something different, right? We can start brainstorming to see what something else can look like, or another track can look like, or trying to go down another route can look like, right? So I think that's the biggest thing. It's having the hard conversation, or building up the courage to be like, you know what? I don't know about this. Right? Using your voice, like, you know what? I don't think this is working. And being honest about that. And I keep repeating honesty. We were saying this from the jump, but I think honesty is what really, like truth, right? We talk about truth and what is really happening, how you really feel, and what you're really seeing. Your truth, your honesty often opens the door for others. So don't be afraid to open the door, respectfully and gracefully, to start a conversation, because you never know how well that may go, because you have now made it safe, in a sense, for others to speak their truth and to say, you know what, I'm thinking the same thing you were thinking, or I'm on the same page as you. I was frustrated as well, but since you said something, let me tell you where I am. Right? Tony said her advice is stay calm and be honest with the person or situation, and just communicate it. And that's it. Sometimes we overcomplicate things. Sometimes it's just like, hey, can I talk to you? Can I tell you about where I am? These are some difficulties that I'm facing. These are some things, relationship wise. These are some things that kind of been bothering me. Like you said this or you did this, and this is how I felt. Right. We talk about I statements. I feel this way. Right. If you've been in any kind of therapy or counseling or been in spaces like that, they talk about making I statements like I feel this way when this happened, instead of saying you did this and you did that, and when you said that, it is I feel this way when this happens, or I felt sad about this, and really being honest and calm, not overbearing, or like really just again emotional intelligence, reading the room. Hey, this is where I am with this. I really enjoyed my time with this company. However, I'm seeking some new opportunities. I appreciate you for all that you've done for me, but I don't really think this is going to work. And being honest about that, being calm with it, sharing it, and then being open to actually saying it, but also putting in the work to let go or to move forward. So thank you for sharing that. And then lastly, the last place we had 5 things, right? So the first one is go has multiple meanings. So if you're just coming in, hey, everybody's just coming in. People, I know we have a lot going on tonight, so some people popping in, popping out. If you've been riding with us the whole time, thank you. The first thing, just a quick recap. The first thing was go has multiple meanings. So for some of us, go is letting go, breaking off, getting away from certain things, certain patterns, certain habits. For others of us, it is I'm moving towards this. I am going forward in something. And for some of us, it's both. The other one is you have to gather courage. So we have to get through the emotions, process the emotions, and gather the courage to say, you know what, I reanalyze the situation, and this is what I need to do. And even considering the timing of that. Third, game plan. Have a strategy, have a plan, work with what you do have. We will never have everything that we need in the moment, right? As you go forward, you will collect things that you need. You will start getting the people that you need. But when you first start, it's very rare that you have everything because we just don't know everything, right? So have a plan, have a strategy, looking ahead, right? Proper planning prevents poor performance. Have some type of plan in mind to move forward so that you know what you're reaching to. And the last thing we just talked about is saying goodbye with grace. Everything does not have to end on bad terms. You can say goodbye with grace. You can leave and still be on good terms with people. And it doesn't have to be this big, this big chaotic drama-filled scene. It can be, hey, this didn't work. Hey, I gotta go. And that's just what it is. It doesn't have to be drama. Hey, Stick Ricks. Hey, Mavis. Mavis is gonna be on with us next week. I'm super excited about that when we talk about grief. So lastly, our last thing is gratitude and closure. So gratitude and closure, what does that have to do with knowing when to go? It is accepting and being grateful for past experience. Like our gratitude is, you know what, while I was at this job, while I was in this relationship, while I was serving in this space, this is what I learned. And I'm grateful for that, right? We don't want to throw away any experiences. So even some of the bad experiences we've had, some of the difficult times we've had, some of the things that maybe we did that didn't feel good to us, but they helped us grow. We can have gratitude for those moments. Like, you know what, that helped me to become a better person. That helped me to communicate better. That helped me to learn how to delegate. That helped me to learn how to express my feelings. That helped me to learn that, everything is not about me, right? It helped me to learn that sometimes I am the person that has upset my mate or upset my friend. And I have to be willing to, take ownership of that and take accountability with that. So having gratitude for your past, I'm grateful for this. This helped me grow, appreciating that. But then the closure part is this is what happened in that time, in that space. I'm grateful for the time that it did serve me. And then, but I'm also looking forward to what is to come. I'm also looking forward to how I will grow in other ways. I'm also looking forward to other opportunities that will come my way. I'm also looking forward to other connections that I will make with other people, right? So I have my gratitude, my closure with the past, while simultaneously I'm able to look forward for what is to come, right? So we let go. For those of us who are learning to let go of things, of people, we let go. And sometimes that's difficult, sometimes that hurts. But we don't want to forget the part where you look forward to what is to come. We don't want to get so caught up in, but this happened there and this happened and I'm mad at them. But you also don't want to get caught up in, man, I had a really good time there, that again, you become stagnant and you forget that there's more that you have to achieve. There's more that you have to do to make an impact. There's more ahead of you. So you don't want to get caught up in, man, we did do this, we did this, to the point that it makes you stagnant. You want to have closure in that, so that you're able to leave with grace, so that you're able to have gratitude for what has happened, but you're also able to move forward and know that there is more on the way. So you want to embrace the future. So I just want to close out again with one more question for y'all. Y'all know I love a question because I love when y'all talk to me, and I appreciate y'all for talking to me. What's the biggest, if you could answer this question, and again, you can answer it in your own way, however you see fit. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from past experiences? So I learned this in the past, but it has helped me in the present, and it can possibly help me in the future. And I think just kind of going back to what we talked about before, as you think about that, the biggest lessons you've learned from past experiences. And again, I think mine is honestly knowing that things just will not always work out how you thought they would. But it not working out how you imagine or how you envision should not cause you to stop making progress. Even if it's a small step, even if it's a tiny step, even if you barely feel like you're making movement, don't allow, you feeling like, oh, I'm missing out on something, or you feeling like, oh, I could have done that better, stop you from doing anything at all. So I think the biggest lesson I have learned from past experiences is things will not go your way. Things will not always go as planned. You will have hiccups. You will have obstacles, right? But you can't allow those moments and those temporary things and those things that often try to come up against you to stop you from making progress, even if what progress looks like isn't as big or as grand as you thought it is. You just making one step and you just choosing to move forward is progress, right? And it is you still moving forward, and it is you still making impact, even if it's not exactly what you thought it would look like. Miss Rosa said that there's a season for everything. Hey, Reverend Lawrence. Hey, Jasmine. Just not there's a season for everything. That's really good. So again, things may look different at different times in your life, and that's okay too. It is, again, going back to knowing when to go. Okay, what is this the season for? Is this the season for me to go hard over here? Is this the season for me kind of sit back and figure out what's next? Is this the season for me to let go of certain people or certain things, because that can impact what you have going on right now? Tora Sweat, that's my mom. She said, don't worry about what others think. And that's it. Again, you cannot allow others, easier said than done. Let me go ahead and put that disclaimer out. Easier said than done. But you cannot allow the opinions of others. You cannot allow, the strong stance of others to stop you from, when you know, I know I gotta go. I know I gotta leave. I know it, right? But what you cannot do is allow, that chatter and other people's opinions to stop you from going when you know that it's time to go. It's one thing if you're asking them for advice and they're kind of pouring into you and they're giving you the very best that they can for you. But it's a totally different thing when those voices and those opinions start to hold you back from what you really should be doing. So we want to even decipher those things. So we are kind of closing out. So again, I appreciate you all for coming in. I appreciate you for sharing. I appreciate, again, every week I say, I appreciate your transparency, because you could come up here and you don't have to share anything. And I appreciate the people that come in, you grab what you need, you go with that, you listen, you write it out, you share with other people. I appreciate all of you who comment and share and give advice. I appreciate you, even if you just pop in, you're like, okay, boom, I got what I needed, I'm out. I appreciate it all, because that's our community, right? None of us are exactly the same. But tonight, our goal really is going back to the song, right? You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time for counting when the deal is done. And again, the song talks about life and the cards that you're dealt. But I really want us to focus tonight on, okay, if it's time to go, it is okay for me to let go. I know when to go. I know it's time for me to let go of this job, let go of this person. And I also know when it's time for me to move forward into this. It's scary, but I know I gotta go. It can be overwhelming in moments, but I know I gotta go. So that is that was the whole goal of tonight. Know when to go and know that it's okay to separate. Know that it's okay to want more. Knowing that it's okay to go, even when you're a little scared, you don't really know. But you want to do your research and prepare yourself as much as possible, even in the unknown. So thank y'all for joining tonight. Thank you for your comments. Again, we'll be back next week, same time. We have a special guest, Mavis Rose. She will be joining us. We'll be talking about grief. So the title of the episode is Good Grief. And it's not good as in like good grief, but it's good grief, like the expression like good grief, like you're overwhelmed, you're dealing with different things, you may be frustrated, you may be tired of people just telling you how to deal with grief in one way, but not really giving you a full picture or really healthy information on how to deal with grief. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about religion and grief. We're going to talk about grief and these kind of like these things that people say that don't really help you, right? So we're going to give some healthy advice and practical advice. We're also going to talk about some really real things as we talk about grief and what that looks like and how we can identify that even in other people and kind of help them get the resources that they need and also deal with our own grief. Because one thing that I know, and I know that it's 10:01. One thing that I know is that grief looks different and grief is different. So for some people, grief may be dealing with the death of a loved one. For some people, it may be I lost the job. For some people, it may be, the opportunity didn't come through. Like there are different types of grief. It's not always death, right? It could be loss of independence. It could be a million things, right? And again, this is next week's episode, but I kind of want to give y'all an intro that because for some people, like, well, I'm not dealing with grief. I haven't lost anyone. That's fine, but it could be loss of relationship, and the person can still be living. It could be, your economic status has changed. There's so many things that we grieve. So we want to talk about that, and we want to have an honest conversation and not just a really surface level. Oh, well, it's their time. No, we want to talk about it for real. So that's next week. I'm glad she was able to pop in a little bit today. But that's next week. I'm looking forward to that conversation because that's something that we don't talk about a lot openly. So I'm excited to have the conversation in a sense of giving people the tools so that we're able to deal with things in a healthy manner from someone who is licensed, someone who works in that space, and someone who's able to give us information based on that type of experience and knowledge and education. So I'm super, super, super excited. So thank you all again for coming in. I will see you next week. Cannot wait to chat with our special guest and with you. Again, thank you for riding it out with us, and I will see you next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern.